but I'm a person, and I feel like, people will like you for who you are if you are true to yourself. And
We are accustomed to 5-hour marathons, 150-mile-per-hour serves, broken records, and prize checks that resemble lottery jackpots in the world of professional tennis. However, the sport was unprepared for what transpired under the desert sun. Alex Eala approached the net prepared to rejoice after playing the game of her life, her muscles burning and her excitement waning. Before the stadium abruptly fell silent, the audience was roaring. One of the richest people in the area, neither an official or a fan, entered the court. Sheikh Khalid al-Rashid, an oil billionaire, took the microphone, looked her in the eye, and made an incredible offer. $10 million for the sweat-soaked racket in her hand, not for sponsorship or a business partnership. It wasn't a scene from a movie. The tennis world was astounded by this genuine moment. A straightforward birthday greeting evolved into one of the most poignant moments in sports history. The alleged $10 million racket incident became more than just a headline on Champions Tennis, where we feel the match's pulse in addition to watching it. It was about the startling offer, confused security, and a young champion's 5-second response that demonstrated that some things in life are just not purchasable. And in order to fully appreciate how remarkable that was, you must first comprehend the context of Eala's quick ascent to fame as a young Filipina tennis player. Alex Eala, a proud alumnus of the Rafa Nadal Academy, has been dominating the rankings, silencing skeptics, and bearing the dreams of a whole country on her shoulders. She is now a phenomenon rather than merely a bright talent. After a demanding season in which she struggled through qualifications and fought for every point, Eala was locked in when she arrived at the event. The match was already in the news before the millionaire took the court. Her quickness across the court was almost mystical, and she played with a passion never seen, her forehand exploding like a cannon. In addition to winning, she was motivating everyone in attendance, particularly those in the VIP box. Sheikh Khalid al-Rashid, a man apparently worth over $50 billion with private islands, fleets of supercars, and a skyline sculpted by his investments, kept a careful eye on things there. He wasn't looking at the scoreboard, though. Aisha al-Rashid, his daughter, was the target. She is perceived by the world as the heiress of an oil empire. She was just a little girl with stars in her eyes that day. According to people close to the family, Aisha had been dealing with personal health issues. As she recovered, she found solace in seeing Eala compete. She bonded with Eala's spirit in addition to admiring her game. Aisha had silently found courage in Eala's unwavering, never-give-up attitude. The audience erupted in loud acclaim as Alex Eala scored the game's final goal along the line. However, Aisha al-Rashid turned to her father inside the VIP box and murmured that all she wanted for her birthday was to hold a bit of that enchantment. The majority of fathers may have purchased a replica jersey or made arrangements for a signature. Sheikh Khalid al-Rashid, however, was unlike other fathers. Sweat trickled down her brow as Eala shook hands with her opponent and waved to the fans at the conclusion of the battle. She was probably dreaming of an ice bath and recovery shake. Suddenly, security around the players' bench parted like the Red Sea. As the millionaire himself entered the court wearing spotless ceremonial robes, the audience fell silent. Stunned tournament organizers were unsure of how to respond. He gestured for the umpire's microphone, composed yet resolute. The stadium was silent as the sound system crackled. He said, his strong voice quivering with emotion, "I am a father, and I'll stop at nothing to ensure my daughter is content." Uncertain if this was an impromptu ceremony or a security breach, Eala froze and clutched her racket tightly. The sheik turned back to the young champion after taking a quick look at the VIP box, where Aisha was standing with her palms pushed against the glass. "My daughter Aisha finds inspiration in you, Alex Eala." The spectators let out a collective gasp as I said, "I would like to offer $10 million to purchase the racket you used to win today's match. $10 million for a few $100s worth of graphite and thread at a sporting goods store." But it was more than simply gear to him. It represented resiliency and optimism. Ella's face was captured on camera as she gazed at the billionaire and then at the racket she was holding, which had scratches from a hard court and was stained with blood and perspiration. 5 painful seconds went by. Nobody took a breath. $10 million could secure generations, establish careers, construct hospitals, and transform lives. Most would have given over the entire bag, not just the racket. Eala, however, ignored the cash. She examined the situation. Without consulting her coach or agent, she approached the microphone and stated, "Sir, your daughter's love for the game is worth more than any amount of money in the world." Her voice was calm and compassionate. In the VIP box, she grinned at Aisha. "I am unable to sell you this racket for $10 million. Because inspiration shouldn't be purchased," Alexandra Eala said in a composed yet forceful manner. "It ought to be distributed." Then, rather of leaving, she went to the court's edge beneath the VIP box and gestured for Aisha to come down. After a brief moment of hesitation, security gingerly lifted the young child over the railing. Eala bent down to look her in the eye. She put the racket in Aisha al-Rashid's shaking hands and whispered, "This is for you. You pledge to continue battling, just like I do, in exchange for free." Sheikh Khalid al-Rashid's daughter Aisha, who could have anything money could buy, started crying. She flung her arms around Eala and wept into the champion's shoulder. The strong sheikh, a titan of business, stood behind them, clearly humbled as he wiped his own eyes. The audience grieved in addition to applauding. For almost 10 minutes, the stadium was filled with a thunderous standing ovation that reverberated well beyond the court. Since then, the event has gone viral on social media because it touched a chord in a world full of cynicism. Athletes are viewed as assets, and loyalty has a price in today's sports, which can feel like pure business. The sheikh was acting on the understanding that everything has a price when he made his $10 million bid. You have to pay for uncommon items. Eala's denial, however, was about redefining worth rather than just rejecting money. She made that racket invaluable by declining the offer. It would have been a pricey memento and a sign of a transaction if she had sold it. She turned it into something much more by giving it away, a representation of inspiration, resiliency, and hope. In an instant, that racket was more than just equipment. It evolved into a physical representation of the relationship between an athlete and a spectator and a sign of unadulterated sportsmanship. The lesson was profound for Aisha. She might have discovered that money can buy anything if her father had just bought the racket. Rather, she discovered that her hero sees her, appreciates her, and has faith in her because of heart and passion rather than money. Hashtags like Ella Effect and Priceless went viral on social media during the billion-dollar rejection. Commentators joked that Alexandra Eala had just made the worst business decision of her life, but it was also the greatest brand decision imaginable. Was it really bad business? In reality, Eala may have done something far more powerful than cashing a check. She positioned herself as a global ambassador of integrity and kindness, something no endorsement deal can manufacture. Brands look for icons, not just champions. And she became one in that moment that will never be forgotten. But that heartfelt hug wasn't the end of the tale. The tennis community and beyond are still feeling the repercussions. You must examine her journey in order to completely see why her gesture struck such a deep chord. Eala is a graduate of the Rafa Nadal Academy, and her ascent has been characterized by the discipline, fortitude, and convictions that were ingrained in her from an early age. Her journey has never been simple. She was born in the Philippines, carrying the aspirations of a country eager for a world-class tennis player. Giving away the racket mattered so much because of this. She knew what it was to pursue a desire that occasionally seemed greater than oneself, to struggle for opportunity, and to find strength in inspiration. Alexandra Eala, who was born in the Philippines, has had to struggle for every chance. At an early age, she left home to practice at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, forgoing time with friends and family in order to follow her goal. She overcame injuries, financial difficulties, and the tremendous burden of representing a country's aspirations in a sport that is primarily dominated by wealthier nations with more advanced facilities. Tennis legends have taken notice of her rapid ascent up the WTA rankings in recent months. She has been compared to established stars due to her blazing baseline game and tactical acumen above her years. She shocked a top 20 opponent just weeks prior to the now-famous incident, demonstrating that she was no longer merely a hopeful prospect but rather a real threat. The Filipino tennis community has shown remarkable support for her back home. Every time she competes, Manila venues are packed with spectators, and kids are picking up rackets as a result of her impact. She is motivating a generation rather than just pursuing ranking points. Her choice to donate the racket seems so strong because of this. Turning down $10 million for someone who has witnessed firsthand how hard her family fought to fund her path, and who recognizes the importance of every dollar. Million wasn't just giving. It was revolutionary. It served as a reminder that some athletes continue to view their platform as something greater than themselves. Wealth. The tale didn't stop there. According to reports, Sheikh Khalid Al Rashid was so touched by her act that he promised the same $10 million in Eala's honor to promote the growth of child sports in the Philippines rather than purchase souvenirs. Although it hasn't been formally announced, people close to the family say he plans to finance tennis facilities in underprivileged areas, giving kids who might never touch a racket lessons and equipment. Eala's 5-second choice has the potential to create a legacy far bigger than any individual wealth. Rather than benefiting just one person, it might provide opportunities for thousands of young athletes, transforming a single act of generosity into a national movement. In the Philippines, complete tennis courts may be built instead of a single racket collecting dust in a private collection. That is the kind of maths that transforms nations, the multiplication of kindness. Coaches nationwide are giddy with anticipation after the Philippine Tennis Association reportedly contacted Sheikh Khalid Al Rashid's agents to discuss possible collaborations. In the event that the proposed foundation is realized, former Filipino players have even given their time and experience. Aisha, on the other hand, was spotted carrying the racket as if it were her most valuable possession as she left the stadium. Witnesses said that she refused to allow security to carry it, clutching it close to her chest and looking down at it in shock as they drove home. The worn grip and scuffed frame may now be among the most significant pieces of tennis memorabilia in the Middle East, not because of its monetary worth but rather because it symbolizes something that even billions cannot buy, a hero realizing that she matters not for her last name but for her own spirit. The Sheikh himself has been remarkably silent on social media, but those close to him say the moment left a lasting impression. He is used to billion-dollar negotiations, boardrooms where fortunes change with a signature, and obtaining nearly anything he wants. He encountered something outside the purview of wealth for what may have been the first time in decades, and rather than becoming frustrated, he replied with humility. He was reminded that there is dignity, love, inspiration, and hope outside of any marketplace. What about Alexandra Eala? She left the court in the same modest, calm manner that she had arrived, concentrating on the next task. She merely grinned and remarked, "Some things are just for the heart," in response to reporters swarming around her in a mixed zone and asking her to explain the viral moment. Instead of making a show out of it, she let the gesture do the talking. She did not post a sneak peek of the gesture on Instagram. She didn't want a statement from her management team. Alexandra Eala merely followed her instincts, guided by principles that had been formed even before she participated in professional competitions. Her social media following has increased by more than 2 million across all platforms in the days following the incident, which is exactly why the moment struck such a deep chord. Her influence went beyond the game itself, as seen by the numerous messages of appreciation she received from nations without even a professional tennis circuit. According to reports, major international brands are lining up for collaborations not because she won a trophy but rather because she displayed character, which is more uncommon than a championship win. Eala just demonstrated that she possesses genuineness, which is the most valuable currency in contemporary sports marketing. The response from the tennis community has been overwhelmingly positive. Grand Slam winners and rising prospects alike have publicly applauded her choice. Legends who usually stay off social media have expressed their appreciation for her, and former world number ones have referred to her as an inspiration. In a statement, the Women's Tennis Association praised Eala for exemplifying the compassion and sportsmanship that the circuit aims to promote. In a sport where titles and ranking points are usually used to gauge performance, there is growing speculation that Alexandra Eala may be given a unique humanitarian award at the conclusion of the season. Even if the rallies were excellent, what transpired after match point has made the tournament where it all took place one of the most talked about events of the year. According to reports, organizers are thinking of ways to mark the occasion, such as putting up a plaque where Eala gave Aisha the racket. Some have even suggested renaming a portion of the stadium to honor the act, while local artists have suggested creating a statue that depicts Eala and Aisha's embrace frozen in time, with the racket between them serving as a metaphor of the bond between an athlete and their fan. The response from other competitors has been mostly positive. While some players have acknowledged in private that they aren't convinced they would have made the same choice, Others have publicly applauded her kindness. The story is only made more complex by such candor. Her decision sticks out because not everyone is wired in the same way. It serves as a reminder that there are always options, especially in high-stakes situations involving potentially life-altering financial amounts. Unexpectedly, the maker of the Racket model that Eala utilized has also come under scrutiny. While purposefully avoiding any overt commercial exploitation, the corporation produced a carefully crafted statement expressing delight that its technology was a part of such a significant occasion. Rather than launching an ostentatious campaign, they announced a limited contribution of rackets to Philippine youth tennis programs, a decision that was more in line with charity than profit. Behavioral experts are interested in the narrative because it has a psychological component. What influenced Ella's choice during those 5 silent seconds? Was it a result of years of sacrifice and values, or was it just instinct? Or was it a quick calculation based on identity, purpose, legacy, or something more profound than money? Whatever was going through her head during that little moment has turned into a case study of character under duress. When faced with potentially life-altering quantities of money, most people engage in what psychologists refer to as cognitive override, a struggle between emotional urge and logical calculation. However, Alexandra Eala went beyond both. She didn't suffer or think things through. She acted with a moral clarity that comes from deeply ingrained principles during that brief pause, a clarity that is so instinctive that it doesn't require logic. She simply knew what was correct. The incident also highlights the nuanced connection between happiness and riches. Sheikh Khalid al-Rashid has nearly all that money can buy, yet he was unable to fulfill his daughter's greatest wish. Giving her what she really needed only required a small gesture from a relatively poor person. The lesson is universal, and the irony is deep. The things we value most, love, acceptance, connection, and belonging, do not depend on economic systems. They cannot be traded, bought, or sold. They are priceless because they can only be offered freely. There are encouraging signals for Eala's future. As a player whose honesty now speaks louder than any trophy, her ranking will keep rising, victories will mount, and sponsorships will pour in. Beyond honors and recommendations, however, she has established a legacy that is considerably more enduring. Long after her matches are over, long after the wins and losses fade, this story will endure. It will be told in tennis clubs, documented in sports histories, and utilized to motivate future generations of sportsmen to understand that their impact goes well beyond the court. Additionally, the encounter might create a lifelong passion for Aisha Al-Rashid. Maybe she'll pick up a tennis racket and discover her own passion for the sport, or she'll pursue other goals, taking with her the lesson that genuine worth is determined by the depth of relationships we develop with others rather than material belongings. When she encounters her own difficulties years from now, she might think back on this occasion and realize that some of life's most priceless presents come from the heart rather than from money. In years to come, Aisha Al-Rashid will remember the day Alexandra Eala knelt before her and made the decision to choose human compassion before financial gain. We watch sports for this reason. Yes, for the athletic prowess, for the forehands and backhands, but we remain for humanity. We remain for the times when the distinction between a superstar and a fan is blurred. When athletes remind us that they are first and foremost people, not just performers. Occasionally, something happens outside of the game that awakens our better angels and rekindles our trust in kindness. Even though Sheikh Khalid al-Rashid attempted to buy a moment, Eala offered him a memory and taught us all a lesson that will be with us for years to come. She demonstrated that inspiration is meant to be shared rather than sold, and that some things cannot and should not be commercialized. She taught that being affluent is not the same as being truly wealthy, and that the heart knows things the wallet never will. How would you respond? Would you accept a $10 million offer from a billionaire for something